Good afternoon. My name is Liudmyla Palamar, and I'm here with Xavier Michon, who is Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations Capital Development Fund. And today we're going to discuss a number of topics within the SDG framework, and I would like to thank you for joining us at the SDG studio today. And we highly value your time and hope to have an insightful dialogue. So my first question to you would be about 2030 agenda. What is the role of United Nations Capital Development Fund in achieving 2030 agenda?
First of all, I'm not the. Good morning to everyone. I'm not the Deputy Executive Secretary General. That was Ms. Mohammed, Executive Secretary. And
Okay.
my ambition are not there yet. But anyhow, thank you for having me. So UNCDF is very quickly, and I'll give you a short version, is the capital investment agency within the UN Development Group. And we have as a mandate to make finance work for the poor. And what by this we mean is to bring finance in least developed countries, because this is where we operate, and in what we call in last mile environments is basically where the problems of inequality, the problems, of course, of exclusion are the greatest. And it's mostly outside of even of the capitals. So this is the environment where we operate, and we utilize financial instruments so that basically we include populations as actors of their own development, and also we work with private companies and local governments. Without going into the details, UNCDF tackles mostly the SDG 1 on poverty, because by making finance work for the poor, and I'm talking about excluded populations and affected by inequality offshore, this is our primary SDG, and we see it as our role is to talk to those populations. And maybe I can give you some examples. And the second one is on the 17, which is the Partnership for Development, where basically by establishing partnering with other actors, public, private, utilizing blended finance instruments, we bring that element to life and we contribute to SDG 17. That doesn't mean, these are our primary SDGs, that doesn't mean that as secondary SDGs we don't work on other SDGs, but I would say our work focuses on primarily on these two SDGs.
Okay, thank you. So it's financing would be the key contribution of...
It's developing financial instruments so that public resources flow via local governments to the populations. So it's establishing on those channels so that we get there.
Yep.
It's not about funding. On the other side, via private institutions, is we work in tailoring products via private companies so that they adapt to the needs of the poorest, because the poorest want to have access to financial instruments. I'm talking about, of course, to savings, credit, and insurances. And those needs are a little bit different from you and I, and they need to be tailored according to their needs. So we do believe that by including populations, and that's part also of the SDG infrastructure, architecture, the poor have access to other means to promote their own development.
And you've mentioned the partnership with private organizations, with private companies, which resonates with this year's theme of the European Development Days. Can you tell more about that? Why it is so important for private actors to be involved in what we're doing for the Sustainable Development Goals?
Okay, I think the relationship with the private sector is embedded in our DNA. We do believe that the private sector is one of the channels to bring a solution to development bottlenecks and opportunities. So we finance the product sector to develop financial services and products so that the poorest are included and can start saving, can start generating a track history with the financial institution, having access to a credit that allows them to start building, if they're entrepreneurs, a small activity, having access to insurance, lower remittances costs. And so these are means that we utilize. So what we do is that we seed innovation, we support private sector companies to seed innovation so that they tailor those products and bring them to those categories that we're not included so far. And we see, of course, in the country we operate, which are the poorest, of course, the least developed countries, there is an important penetration because we work utilizing also the means of digital finance. And through digital finance, you can reach out to the populations that are anywhere. I can give you just one example. The poor today, basically, if you want to have a loan, is based on your assets and your your history with the bank. That's how they give you a loan. Today, via digital finance, just by seeing the pattern of utilization of your your cell phone, you can start making certain assumptions and establish a credit history with someone who doesn't have assets, who doesn't have a relationship with the bank, and you can give access to resources that they can invest in a productive activity. I think that's something innovative. There are many other types of concrete solutions can be developed via digital finance, but this is what we're doing. We are helping private sector to develop new products, embark into new markets, and basically these are markets which are at the bottom of the pyramid.
Thank you. And my last question would be something we talk a lot about these days, and it's the involvement of young people in what we do for the Sustainable Development Goals. And we as young generation, we feel the need to get involved. So what can you say to young entrepreneurs and to young tech generation that wants to get involved? How they do it, why they do it, and why is it important?
Okay, let me start with a statement and then maybe give you an example. I would say UNCDF, like many other UN agencies, we have made women economic empowerment and involving youth as one of our priorities, and I think these are angles that basically that have get a much more, let's say, importance in what we do. So it's a target population that we are focusing on. And to give you a concrete example, we work with microcredit institutions so that they develop products with the youth. And what does that mean? Lower cost, transaction that are much easier, and a component is important because we're talking to the poorest, financial education, basic concept of management. And we've done, for example, that last year in Burkina Faso. We worked with microcredit institution. We told them, look, why don't you develop a product that responds to those needs, but bring also that component of education. And the sector acquired through the grant that we gave them and the technical support, in a couple of less than a year, 50,000 new clients, all youth, financially incorporated. So what did they start? Understanding the concept of saving, putting some money aside, using it in difficult moments, putting it aside to invest it, develop a track history, and then getting a loan. And the story doesn't end there, and I'm going to give you the end of the picture. I met with young people in Burkina, and they told me, you know what? If you would have known, we would have started earlier. Where were you? And I think that's one of the elements. We expanded their horizon. They saw that there were opportunities by just giving them access to financial instruments, giving them access to concepts on basic management, financial literacy. It empowers the youth. And the second point they told us, they said, we're about the 50,000 that are lucky in Burkina Faso. What if you would embed financial literacy, concept of basic management skills within the educational system? This would unleash the power of the youth in this country. So these are the messages. I think they were very practical, and of course we have made it ours. We just have a case in the Southern Pacific Island. We're working with the government, and they have embedded now financial education and literacy as part of the general education. I think that's what we give them, tools to build their future, and if we can give them also opportunities to access savings and credit and insurance and others, I think these are instruments that are very important for them.
So thank you so much for helping youth, for providing your expertise, and for helping us to do better in our future. And thank you for taking the time to join us here at the SDG studio. So we were here with Xavier Michon from UNCDF, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here.